Joining us now, Eugene Robinson, MS Now political analyst and Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, and Miles Taylor, former DHS chief of staff during Trump's first term and founder of Defiance.org. Good morning, gentlemen.
100
what
days.
A great table. We are 100 days out from the midterms. You know, I think we're probably paying more attention right now than the average voter is, and we should not be in the prediction game. But if things continue along the trend lines that we're seeing right now, Miles, with the war in Iran not seemingly intractable, with the president himself saying behind closed doors that he does not see any diplomatic off-ramps, affordability crisis only simmering even more, gas prices probably going up, economists predicting that this steep price correction is about to take place. What should we expect going into November?
Well, Jackie, for someone who's not in the prediction game, you got some good numbers.
But I was someone who was really a negative Nancy about predictions about the Senate.
Yeah.
And even with the Troy Jackson, Graham Plattner of it all, do you think that's changed the calculus at all?
Without getting into specific races, when you look in aggregate at the situation, I genuinely think that we are seeing Donald Trump mount an absolutely historic get out the vote effort. The only problem for him is he's doing it for the other side. If you look at the data right now, there is a remarkable enthusiasm gap between Democrats and Republicans, and it's largely driven by Trump himself. Donald Trump has made Democrats feel like the fundamental right to vote is at stake. And a lot of folks worry that would result in voter suppression. If people feel like their vote's not going to get counted, they're not going to show up. But almost 3 in 4 Democrats in this country say this is the most important midterm in their lifetimes. Right. Extraordinary enthusiasm about getting out to vote in this election. On the other hand, Republicans, their enthusiasm is very soft this election cycle. Mm-hmm. Why? Well, I'm going to speculate it's because there's been a guy at the head of their party for the past 2 years who said, if you reelect me, you'll never have to vote again. Unfortunately for him, they seem to be listening. They seem to be thinking, maybe we don't need to vote again. This is the same man who weeks ago, on July 3rd, said, if you let me pass the Save America Act, Republicans will win for 100 years. He's telling his side, we don't need you to show up. We got it covered. And he's telling the other side, you have to be there. That's showing up in the data. If that holds until Election Day, it's going to be a rout for Donald Trump.
And he's telling his voters that your vote won't count. He's telling them over and over and over again that they're going to steal the election. So if I'm a voter, why would I vote? If someone is going to steal my vote, why, if China or Venezuela or any, like these random countries that he chooses are going to not make my vote not count, why would I vote? Like, I've talked to Republican strategists who would love for him to stop talking about this, but it's been 10 years and I don't think he's going to. I want to look at a new Emerson poll that goes to what you're saying, Miles. Democrats have a plus 11 advantage on the generic congressional ballot. So basically, for those watching, that means you don't even have a name for a Democrat. So this can be higher or lower in a lot of these races. But at the end of the day, more people want a Democrat to be in Congress where they live than a Republican. 53% on Democrat, Republican 42. That's big. I mean, even with redistricting, that seems like something that's hard.
11-point gap there would mean just a wipeout. I mean, that 11 points is huge. Other polls have it anywhere between, 3 and 11, but it seems to average around 7 or 8, and that's still huge. Mm-hmm. So obviously, yes, the enthusiasm gap is there. It's very real, and clearly Donald Trump doesn't care about it because he doesn't care about the midterm election because he cares about Donald Trump and what Donald Trump wants. He cares about his ballroom. He cares about, the chandeliers the other night at the Waldorf Astoria, which I guess he wants to steal. He cares about Donald Trump, and he doesn't care about his party. And if Republicans don't know that by now, then they have not been paying attention.
Eugene, is an 11-plus advantage on the generic ballot enough for Democrats to get over the gerrymandering issue that they've been dealing with?
It should be. It should be. I mean, the gerrymander was only partly counteracted by Democratic state legislatures, and so So it did get the Republicans a few seats. But no, if it's 11 points, then that just gets washed out, I think.
If you were going to compare it to something, though, go back to 2018. 2018, Donald Trump, same thing. He's been president for 2 years. He's faced a lot of opposition from the political opposition. The enthusiasm gap back then was like 5 to 7 in a lot of different surveys. And it was a 40-seat net gain for Democrats. It was a blowout. Now, because of gerrymandering, that would likely be tighter. But if the election was held today, you could see 225 to 210 in the U.S. House. You could see a 15-seat, pickup over, what the existing levels are. You could see a big gain for Democrats. But, again, gerrymandering's made those numbers tighter.
Yeah. So, Miles, I want to talk a little bit about some of the election deniers that are on the ballot in some of the purple states. I think Arizona comes to mind, right, where Andy Biggs won the Republican nomination for governor. Now, Biggs is a certified election denier, right? And when I think about 2000 and 2020, right, the stage is set in Maine. Democratic former state lawmaker Troy Jackson will face off against longtime Republican incumbent Susan Collins for the U.S. Senate this November, a race that could be a key factor in Democrats' chances of taking back the Senate majority. And yesterday, in an interview with MS Now's Chris Jackson, he pointed to the issues he believes will set him apart from Collins.
I've been fighting for universal health care, prescription drug coverage. I mean, I'm a big labor person. I don't believe in income tax cuts for wealthy people. I don't believe in ICE should come to Maine or any other state and create the chaos and hate and discontent and murder people. I mean, these are huge differences between me and Senator Collins. And that's why I think people are going to vote for me, because they want somebody that has their back instead of the wealthy elite.
That was the Senate candidate, now the Democratic nominee Troy Jackson, with MS Now's own Chris Jackson. And also joining us is Kirby Wilson, politics editor of the Portland Press-Herald. Kirby, it's good to see you again. I think we just saw you, right? Just yesterday, 24 hours. So I think my question with you, I want to start with the Democratic strategy in the race. It seems to me that they are trying to, they are consistently pointing to a key stat, which is that Susan Collins has voted with Donald Trump 96% of the time. What was notable to me when preparing for this segment, I ran across your own polling about a month ago, which found that Donald Trump was underwater, I think 21 points in Maine. So I think my question for you, is that connecting Trump to Collins to Trump, is that type of message, is that resonating with voters, or are they still sorting through the debris of the Plattner withdrawal?
Well, I think no matter who the Democratic candidate is, the Democrats were going to hope to tie Senator Collins to President Trump. The two stats that you cited are actually really interesting because Senator Collins has voted with Trump 19 out of 20 times statistically, but that's actually sort of on the lower end of how often Republican senators vote with the president. So you can kind of spin that number either way, right? Like Senator Collins could say, well, I'm actually one of the more moderate Republicans for voting even that percentage of the time. And as far as the other statistic about the, about polling and stuff, she's with Trump's numbers, he's significantly underwater, but he's not more underwater than he is nationally. So he's not especially unpopular in Maine. Now, I think both of those things could change. And that polling was done before the ICE officer killed a man, a 25-year-old man in Biddeford about 10 days ago. So I think the more national flare-ups there are, the more between now and Election Day, the more opportunities Democrats will have to tie Senator Collins to the Trump administration. And so, and if they're able to do so, I think they're in good shape.
I mean, Senator Collins is always concerned, so maybe that works out in her favor. There's also some polling from University of New Hampshire that I thought was really interesting, Kirby. Jackson seems to have a slight edge over Collins among voters, 49% to 46%. We can see there that's just a 3% change. And the 2.9% is the margin of error. So basically it is a tied race at this point. But he's also way more popular among voters 18 to 34, 67% to her 30%. And when you take both of those things, one, is 3 points enough for him at this point, based on how much he overperforms polls every single time? I think the shift from Sarah Gideon to her in polling, and when it actually came out in November, was double digits. And how likely is it that he's able to galvanize these young voters in a way that's actually really, really helpful for him here?
I think there's a great chance he's going to do well with young voters. And in fact, Maine had the second highest turnout in 2024 among young voters. But the problem in Maine is there's just not that many of them. Maine is statistically the oldest state in the country. And this campaign battle is largely going to be fought on the airwaves, trying to reach older voters via traditional media means, TV, newspapers, radio. So I think there's a great chance that State Senator Jackson can galvanize young voters. I'm just not sure it's going to make up for the margins that you pointed to. That I think the interesting thing to point to in that University of New Hampshire poll is the Democratic candidate for governor is running 14, 16 points better than her Republican opponent. Jackson is running 3 points better than Collins. To me, that implies the existence of a lot of Democratic voters for governor and Republican voters for senator. They're voting for both at the same time. If Jackson can cut down on the number of those voters, I think he'll do a lot better. You saw it in 2020. Sarah Gideon lost by 9 points the same year that President Biden won by 9 points.
Kirby, I'm wondering if you can sort of give us a vibe check of the room yesterday, because obviously the sampling of people who were there is not necessarily reflective of the entire Maine electorate. It's very keyed in.
Trump's entire approach to this is blatantly unconstitutional, and almost nobody is seriously pretending otherwise. People are not buying the idea that a president can simply decide the rules no longer apply to him because he wants another term. But here is the part that matters. People also are not laughing it off anymore. And honestly, that is important, because the danger was always that we would get trapped in this bizarre gray area where Trump says, maybe I'll run again, maybe I'll serve a third term, maybe I'll campaign for president a fourth time, and everyone treats it like another piece of Trump performance art. That is why the Trump 2028 hat matters. Coming from almost any other politician, it might be dismissed as a cheap joke designed to get attention. But with Trump, it does not exist in isolation. He has brought this up repeatedly. He has teased it, repeated it, and kept pushing it long after everyone understood the constitutional problem. And people around him have explained this privately. First, he is not legally permitted to serve a third term. Second, continuing to flirt with that idea after January 6th is not harmless trolling. It is inflammatory, reckless, and deeply corrosive to constitutional government. Now, to be fair, the Correspondents' Dinner is traditionally a place where politicians make jokes they would not make anywhere else. They joke about uncomfortable subjects, they cross lines, and sometimes they say things that are clearly in poor taste. Barack Obama once joked about using drone strikes against the Jonas Brothers. Was that a tasteful subject for a joke? Probably not. But people understood the setting, recognized it as comedy, and moved on because there was no broader political campaign behind it. Trump is different because the so-called joke overlaps with things he has already said seriously. That creates this strange limbo. The event is supposed to be funny, so some people want to dismiss the remark. But the person making it has spent years attacking election results and testing constitutional boundaries. You cannot responsibly pretend the context does not exist. And the reaction in the room said everything. People did not laugh. They recognized the absurdity, but they did not ignore the danger. That is exactly the balance we need. Trump can be ridiculous. He can behave like a clown. But we cannot allow the clownish performance to distract us from the deeply dangerous things he keeps trying to normalize.